Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to tackle a word that honestly carries more baggage than a transatlantic flight.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a word that has just been dragged through history. It gets misunderstood, turned into cartoons, and, generally abused by pop culture.
Yeah,
We are talking about alchemy.
indeed. It is a heavy word. And I think for the vast majority of people, the moment you say alchemy, the brain just kind of autofills the rest of the picture.
Right, you get the old men in dusty robes.
Exactly. The bubbling beakers, the stone towers.
It's wizards. It's Harry Potter. It's that desperate, greedy quest to turn a lump of lead into a bar of gold so you can, I don't know, retire to a castle in France.
Right.
Or if you're younger, maybe it's Full Metal Alchemist in magical circles. It's fantasy stuff.
It is. It's viewed as this primitive, failed precursor to chemistry, like a superstition. But the source material we are covering today, a text simply titled The Alchemist work, it's asking us to take all those images, put them in a sturdy box, tape it shut, and shove it under the bed.
Throw it away.
Yeah, because this has absolutely nothing to do with metallurgy.
And that's the first thing we really need to clear up for everyone. The gold in this text isn't a metal. You can't spend it.
You can't wear it, no. The source we're diving into today frames alchemy as something entirely different. It presents it as a rigorous, almost desperate roadmap for the evolution of human consciousness.
Wow.
It's not a manual for chemistry. It is a manual for the mind.
Okay, let's unpack this right out of the gate. Because when I read this source, I felt like the text was staring right at me.
I had the same reaction.
It's intense. It's deeply psychological. And to be honest, it's a little bit intimidating. It claims that this process, this great work, as they call it, is about refining the human spirit in a way that sounds, well, painful.
It is not a gentle text. You are completely right about that. The mission of this deep dive, if you want to call it that, is to understand the alchemist not as a profession or a historical figure, but as a personality type.
A personality type.
Right. A specific kind of human being who interacts with reality in a very distinct, very unusual way. So we're going to look at the nature of existence itself, the trap of the human mind, and this incredibly difficult process the text calls the retort.
Before we get into the heavy lifting, and it really is heavy lifting today, I want to talk directly to you, the listener, because the source material actually has a very specific profile for who this information is for.
It does.
It explicitly states that this is not for everyone.
It really isn't. In fact, look, if you are perfectly happy with your life, if you feel like the world makes total sense, if you wake up every day feeling like you fit perfectly into society, you might want to turn this off. This probably isn't for you.
That is a very bold opening. Like, if you're happy, go away.
It sounds harsh, but it's incredibly practical. The text suggests that if you are hearing this, if you are drawn to this kind of deep, esoteric inquiry, it is not an accident.
Right.
It specifically addresses the person who has always felt a little suspicious about reality.
Suspicious is the perfect word. I think a lot of people feel that, even if they don't necessarily say it out loud.
Oh, definitely.
Like, have you ever walked around your life, looked at your job, your house, the people around you, the commute, the coffee shop, and just felt like, is this it? Am I missing something huge here?
That splinter in the mind, to borrow a phrase.
Exactly. It's that nagging feeling that the world is a stage set and you're just waiting for the director to yell cut, but he never does.
Yeah.
So if you have that feeling, that suspicion that the standard explanations for life just aren't cutting it, then this deep dives is basically the instruction manual for that feeling.
It's for the seeker. And I use that word carefully, not the hobbyist, the seeker. The person who feels that the surface level of life is fundamentally insufficient.
So if that sounds like you, buckle up. We have a lot to cover.
Let's do it.
Let's dive right into section 1, the profile of the alchemist. The text opens with a line that I absolutely love, but I also found it a little bit cryptic. It says, quote, "This is not your first rodeo."
It's a striking opening. It immediately reframes the listener's identity.
Not your first rodeo. I mean, that implies experience. It implies a history.
Yeah.
But are we talking about, like, I've read a lot of self-help books, or is this something deeper?
It is much deeper. The text is discussing the concept of lineage, but it's not talking about your genetic lineage. It's not about your parents or your grandparents.
Right.
It's a spiritual lineage. The text literally says, to develop an interest deep enough to reach this point, you are standing on the shoulders of giants.
Okay, usually when people say standing on the shoulders of giants, they mean like a physicist building on Newton's work.
Here.
Or a writer learning from Shakespeare. You're benefiting from the smart people who came before you.
Correct. But here is the twist in the alchemical text. Those giants, they are you.
Wait, what?
Or rather, they are the previous versions of you.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. Is this text explicitly pushing reincarnation? Are we saying, hey, you were a monk in the 14th century and now you're listening to a deep dive?
The text leaves that open to interpretation, but it does lean heavily into the idea of previous existences. It states that your current interest in this dense, difficult material is the result of hard work in the past.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Even if you don't believe in literal reincarnation, even if you think that's total nonsense, the metaphor holds up.
How so?
Think about your own life, just this one. Think about the years you spent confused, the years you spent reading, searching, trying different philosophies, failing, getting your heart broken, recovering.
Yeah, that's a lot of years.
The you that is listening to this right now is built on the shoulders of the you from 10 years ago who was completely lost.
That's very true. I'm certainly not the same guy I was at 20, thank God.
Exactly. So whether interpreted literally as past lives or metaphorically as past phases of this life, the text frames the alchemist as the culmination of a long line of seekers of truth.
You aren't starting from scratch.
Right. You have this innate drive because you've been trying to solve this puzzle for a very, very long time.
I have to say, I find that incredibly validating. It is. Because sometimes when you're down the rabbit hole of philosophy or psychology, you just feel like a weirdo. You feel like, why can't I just watch football and be happy?
Why do I have to overanalyze everything?
Yes. And this text is essentially saying it's not a bug, it's a feature.
It is absolutely a feature. It's the result of effort. And that brings us to the resilience aspect. The text says, be inspired even when things get tough.
And they will get tough. We'll get to the Nigredo later, which sounds absolutely brutal.
It is brutal. But the text connects your resilience directly to this idea of lineage. It says, you are the current incarnation of a long line of seekers of truth.
Right.
That frames your struggle not as a personal failure, but as an obligation. You are carrying the torch.
That is a heavy responsibility.
It is. Think about it this way. If you believe, even just metaphorically, that previous versions of you worked their tails off, suffered, studied, and strove just to get you to this level of understanding, if you give up now, you aren't just letting yourself down, you're letting down the entire lineage. You are dropping the baton in the final lap.
Man, that adds a real sense of nobility to the confusion. You aren't just some confused person today. You're the cutting edge of a centuries-old project.
Precisely. It gives the suffering meaning. And in alchemy, meaning is everything.
So if that's who the alchemist is, this veteran seeker with a heavy backpack of experience, let's talk about the what. What are they actually seeking?
The big question.
Which brings us to section 2, deconstructing existence. The text asks a massive question, maybe the biggest question. What is existence?
And it gives a definition that is quite different from what a physicist or biologist might say.
Right. A physicist might say existence is matter, energy, space, and time.
Exactly. A biologist might say it's metabolic processes and DNA replication. But this source says existence is the subjective nature of being.
Subjective. That is a key word there. We're moving away from the hard objects and into the soft perception.
It defines existence as the concept of a semi-permanent observer. It's about the participant in the process, not just the environment around them. To the alchemist, if there is no observer, there is no existence.
It uses this analogy of sleep to explain this, and I want to spend some real time here because I found this, well, trippy is the only word.
It's a fantastic analogy because it's something we all do every single night, but we rarely think about what it actually is.
The text makes a really sharp distinction between watching someone else sleep and falling asleep yourself.
Right. Think about watching your partner or a child or even a pet fall asleep.
Okay.
You are the external observer. You see the objective signs. Their breathing slows down. It becomes rhythmic. Their muscles relax. Their eyes close. Maybe they twitch a little bit.
Right. It's a physical event. I can measure it.
Objectively, you can point a camera at them and say, at 10:04 p.m., this organism entered a sleep state.
Sure.
And this is the massive, but can you observe yourself falling asleep?
No. I mean, I've tried. I think everyone has tried at some point.
You can't do it.
You lie there, you think, okay, I'm fading, I'm watching it happen, here it comes. And then boom, it's morning. The alarm is going off.
Exactly. There is a cut. You cannot catch the moment. The text describes it as a darkening of senses and a withdrawing.
A withdrawing.
You never remember the exact transition. The awareness extinguishes. From your perspective, from the subjective perspective, you cease to exist for a while.
But here is the spooky part. something wakes up.
Yes. The text argues that despite this total break in consciousness, despite the cut in the film, there is persistence. What falls asleep creates a continuity with what wakes up.
That's the semi-permanent observer.
Correct. That persistence, that thing that bridges the gap of the unconscious, that connects the you of Tuesday night to the you of Wednesday morning, that is the core of existence, according to the alchemist.
It's not your body. Your body was there the whole time.
Exactly. It's the continuity of the observer.
This separates existence from the physical environment entirely.
It does. It radicalizes the definition of self. It points out that our existence isn't just the room we are sitting in, it's dreams. It's fantasies, it's thoughts, it's feelings.
Yeah.
The text makes a really crucial point here, using sensory input. It notes that the same picture or the same sound can soothe one person and terrify another.
Oh, that is so true. Let's take fireworks.
Perfect example.
For me, fireworks are a celebration. Summer night, hot dogs, 4th of July. I hear that boom, and I feel happy. I feel excited.
And for a combat veteran with PTSD.
Pure terror, adrenaline, panic.
Right. But the exact same sound waves are hitting your ear and his ear.
The objective reality is identical. Loud boom.
But the existence of reality you are actually living in is completely opposite.
Precisely. So if we try to define reality just by the sound of the firework, the objective frequency, we are missing the actual reality of the experience.
The reality is the feeling of celebration or the feeling of terror.
That subjective layer is what the alchemist is interested in.
To the alchemist, the objective world is just a prompt. The real world is the reaction.
That makes total sense. But the text says something dangerous happens when we ignore this. It talks about the trap of objectification.
This is section 3, the catalyst.
Right. Why does someone become an alchemist? Why go on this journey? Because, let's be honest, it sounds like a lot of work. Why not just enjoy the fireworks?
The text is pretty blunt about this. It says, if we get fully involved in the objective but imaginary world, we suffer.
We suffer.
Yeah.
But why? Why does focusing on the outside world, the cars, the houses, the bodies, cause suffering? That just seems like normal life.
It is normal life, and normal life is filled with suffering.
Fair point.
The expert argument here is that if you focus entirely on the objective world, you eventually reduce yourself to an object.
How so?
You start thinking of yourself as just a thing, a body, a status, a job title, a bank account balance.
And once you believe you are just a thing,
You develop anxiety because you know the laws of physics. You know what happens to things.
things break.
Things break, things decay, things get stolen, and eventually things end. The text says if you reduce yourself to a thing, you learn what might happen to us. You realize you are fragile. You are a biological machine that is slowly wearing out.
That is a terrifying narrative to live inside.
Yeah.
It's basically living in a waiting room for your own destruction.
It is. It brings up the princely upbringing here, which is clearly a nod to the story of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama.
Right, the classic story. The prince who was locked in the palace by his father so he would never see suffering.
He had the best food, the best clothes,
Beautiful dancing girls, no old people allowed, no sick people allowed.
a perfect, curated, objective paradise. And what happened?
He eventually went outside,
Mhm.
and he saw a sick man. He saw an old man, and he saw a corpse, and it just shattered him.
The text uses this to make a point about our modern lives. You can have the most privileged, sheltered, princely life imaginable. You can have the billions, the private jets, the best doctors, the stem cell treatments.
But that only delays the inevitable.
Exactly, the inevitable
Not
discovery that, well, it's grim, illness, poverty, death.
The text calls it the ultimate conclusion of being a living being.
If you identify as a biological object, the conclusion of your story is death. There is no other ending. That is a horror story.
And this is where disenchantment comes in. I thought this was such a unique take. Usually in our culture, we think of disappointment as a bad thing.
We avoid it at all costs.
We tell our kids, don't be disappointed, look on the bright side. But the source seems to say that disappointment is fuel.
It is the essential fuel. You cannot start the engine without it. The text says the aspiring alchemist must pull themselves away from this objective but mutually suffered delusion.
But you don't just wake up one day and decide to do that for fun.
No, it's too hard. Why would I deconstruct my reality if my reality feels good?
Exactly. You only do it if you are forced to. You only do it if the toy breaks.
You have to be pushed. You have to be disenchanted. You have to be disappointed with what life is offering you.
The text says one only does this if one has suffered disenchantment or disappointment with the ultimate conclusion of being a living being.
So let's make this practical. If you're listening to this and you're feeling kind of bummed out, Maybe you got the promotion you wanted and you felt happy for about 6 hours, and now you just feel empty again.
Or you bought the dream house and now you're just worried about the roof leaking.
That is this it feeling.
Right. If you have that, the alchemist would say, great, congratulations, you finally stopped hallucinating.
Exactly. That sadness isn't a symptom to be cured. It's the first step of the cure. It's the sign that you are ready to stop playing the game of objects, which you are guaranteed to lose, and start the game of existence.
Okay, so we're disenchanted. We're ready. We see the trap. We're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
What do we actually do?
We need a method.
We need a manual here. The text introduces the method in section 4, and it uses this word, the retort.
The retort. I love this imagery. In medieval alchemy, physical alchemy, a retort was a glass vessel with a long neck used for distillation. You'd put some gross, muddy substance in there, heat it up, and the pure spirit would rise up the neck and drip into a clean beaker, leaving the sludge behind.
But we aren't using glass beakers or Bunsen burners here.
No. In this text, the alchemist's lab is the mind. The retort isn't a glass bulb, it's a mental process. Specifically, the text calls it analysis and synthesis.
Analysis and synthesis. That sounds a bit academic, like something I'd hear in a Chemistry 101 lecture. What does it actually mean in the context of my actual life? Let's use a real example.
Okay.
Let's say someone cuts me off in traffic.
Perfect example, a classic trigger.
Okay, so I'm driving, guy cuts me off, I slam the brakes, my coffee spills, I am furious. I want to scream, I want to chase him down. In the normal, objective world, I just embrace that anger. He is an idiot, I am a victim.
Right. You are caught in the narrative. You are an object, the car or the driver, threatened by another object. Now, apply the retort. Step 1, analysis.
Analysis. The text says we must break experience down into its most primitive elements.
So strip away the story. Forget he is a jerk. Forget I am disrespected. What is actually happening?
Okay, I am hearing a loud noise. The horn.
Good.
I am feeling heat in my chest. My hands are gripping the plastic wheel tight. My heart rate is elevated. I am experiencing a thought that says danger.
That is analysis. You are breaking the event into raw sensory data. You are deconstructing the narrative. You are an angry driver. You are a consciousness witnessing heat, sound, and tension.
Okay, I've broken it down to just parts now. Step 2, synthesis.
Synthesis is the rebuilding. But you don't rebuild the old story. You don't put the angry driver mask back on. You build a mental model that is subjectively real.
So I say, there's anger occurring in this space. But I am the one watching the anger. I am the observer.
Exactly. You construct a view where the anger is like a storm passing over the island. You see it, you acknowledge it. Wow, that is a lot of adrenaline, but you don't become it.
You don't let it drive the car.
You don't let it drive the car.
That sounds incredibly difficult to do in the moment.
The text admits this. It says the difficulty curve is steep. It says eventually it happens with obsessive ease, but at first, it's a war.
Why is it so hard? Why does my brain want to scream at the other driver so badly?
Because, as the expert notes, this method is regressive.
Regressive usually means going backward.
And we are. We are retracing our evolutionary steps. Think about it. Evolution spent millions of years building you to react to the tiger in the bushes.
Right.
To seek status, to defend your territory, to survive. Those are primitive drives.
So when I get cut off, my inner caveman screams tiger, threat, attack.
Exactly. And the alchemist is trying to say, no, sit down, watch the tiger. You are swimming upstream against millions of years of biology. You are fighting your own hardware.
That explains why it feels like such a fight. It feels like I'm breaking my own nature.
You are breaking your animal nature to find your spiritual nature. And the text uses a very famous pop culture metaphor to describe this first elusive step. It calls it the white rabbit.
Yes, I loved this. It references Alice in Wonderland and explicitly mentions The Matrix. Follow the white rabbit.
It's a perfect metaphor. Why a rabbit? Think about how a rabbit moves.
It's twitchy, it's fast, and crucially, it runs away when you look at it.
The source says the first step is oblique, subtle, and elusive. The more one seeks it, the more elusive it becomes.
Because our consciousness is reflective. It's like trying to look at your own eyes without a mirror.
Or trying to bite your own teeth.
Yes. Or like when you try to meditate. You sit there and say, okay, I am going to watch my thoughts.
And the moment you say that,
the thoughts stop. Or you start thinking about how well you're watching your thoughts.
Am I doing it? Is this it? I think I'm doing it. And now you're not doing it. You're thinking about doing it.
It's a trap.
It is the matrix. The matrix is the mind's ability to simulate reality so perfectly that you don't know you're in a simulation. The white rabbit is that glitch, that tiny moment where you see the code and you try to grab it and it vanishes.
This leads us to one of the most fascinating and honestly kind of tragic sections of the source material, Section 5. The prison of language, or why we can't catch the rabbit.
This is critical. And it challenges everything we think we know about intelligence.
It really does.
The text argues that our minds are actually less capable of grasping reality now than they were when we were infants.
That is a bold claim. Usually we think adults are smarter than babies. We know things, we can do calculus, we can pay taxes, we can explain why the sky is blue.
We can think. But the text distinguishes between thinking and experiencing. It says, once we learn language, and particularly once we learn to write, we reduce our capacity to grasp new concepts.
Because we put labels on everything.
Let's do a thought experiment.
Okay.
Look around the room you're in right now.
Okay. I see a microphone, a table, a wall, a light.
Stop. You failed.
I failed.
You named them. You didn't see them. You projected a label onto them. You saw a microphone, a functional object used for recording. You accessed a file in your brain called microphone and pasted it over the visual data.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Try to look at the microphone without the word. Try to see the light hitting the curve, the texture of the metal, the shadow it casts, the raw geometry of it. Try to see it like an alien who has no idea what it is.
It's actually really hard. My brain keeps snapping back to, it's a mic, it's a table.
That is the prison. A baby doesn't have the word microphone. A baby sees a raw, silver, gleaming explosion of sensory input. They experience the thingness directly.
An adult sees the label. We live in a world of words, not a world of reality.
There's a quote here that gave me chills. By the time we realize we are prisoners, we can no longer remember how it happened.
We are prisoners of our own symbols. We traded the raw, vibrant, terrifying reality of the world for a safe, labeled catalog of concepts.
And this is why the alchemist has to do something very specific. The text says we have to return to Eden.
Now, to be clear, the text clarifies that Eden isn't a place on a map.
No.
It's not a garden in the Middle East with a snake and an apple.
It's a pre-adult viewpoint. The Garden of Eden is a metaphor for that state of mind we had before we learned to label everything, before we ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or in this case, the tree of naming things.
Let's list the characteristics of this Eden state because I think it paints a really peaceful picture, but also a kind of helpless one.
Okay.
1, words and symbols lacked meaning. 2, existence happened without thinking about things. 3, no sense of separation.
That third one is the big one. No sense of separation. A baby doesn't know where their hand ends and the blanket begins. It's all just one big happening.
Right.
And because there is no separation, there is no me to be hurt by you. There is no ego to defend.
The text calls it a blissful and unworried state.
But, and this is a huge but, maybe the biggest in the deep dive, we can't just go back to being babies.
Right. I can't unlearn English. I can't unknow that I have to pay rent.
The text calls this a strategic retreat, but it warns us. It says, our past innocence was due to ignorance, but now we know.
We can't unring the bell. We know about death. We know about heartbreak. We know about taxes.
Right. If you try to just go back to being a baby, that's not alchemy. That's a lobotomy. Or a regression into helplessness.
So what is the goal?
The goal is to find that Eden perspective, that raw, unlabeled connection to reality, but to hold it while possessing the knowledge of an adult.
To be innocent and wise at the same time?
Yes. To see the world without labels, but to be able to navigate it with intelligence.
That sounds impossible. It sounds like trying to hold fire and ice in your hand at the exact same time.
It is the work of a lifetime. It is the definition of the great work.
So let's talk about the payoff. If we manage to pull this off, and we manage to build this mental model where we are the observer, not the object, and we can strip away the labels, what are we aiming for?
Right, Section 6, the goal.
The text makes a really specific distinction here between bliss and tranquility.
Yes. This is a common trap in spiritual circles. You see it all the time. People chase the high. They want the bliss. They want to feel ecstatic love and light and cosmic energy 24/7.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Better than feeling stress.
It feels great. But the alchemist text warns, do not get lost pursuing heavenly bliss. It says that can be a trap for many incarnations.
A trap. How can feeling good be a trap?
Because bliss is an emotion, and emotions fluctuate. If you are chasing bliss, you are still reacting to the objective world. Oh, the sunset is beautiful, I feel bliss. Oh, the sunset is gone, now I feel normal.
You're still on the roller coaster. We're just enjoying the upslope.
But what goes up must come down.
So if not bliss, what do we want?
Detached tranquility.
That sounds calmer, a little cooler, maybe a little less fun.
It's not about fun, it's about stability. The text uses the metaphor of an island. It says we seek this Eden state to create a place of stability, an island on which the alchemist can observe inner and outer experience, relatively uninvolved.
Relatively uninvolved, that's the key phrase. You're watching the storm, but you aren't in the storm.
Exactly. You are the observer on the island. The storm of emotions can rage, sadness, fear, joy, even bliss, but you are standing on solid ground, watching it happen, rather than being swept away by it.
You aren't drowning in the ocean of feeling, you're watching the waves crash against the shore.
And from this island, something massive can happen. The text talks about a breakthrough. It calls it nirvana, or unconditioned reality.
Now, nirvana is a word that gets thrown around a lot. It's on t-shirts, it's a band, it's a flavor of ice cream. But here, it's a technical term.
It's not heaven with harps.
No.
The text describes it as a split-second experience. It's not a permanent state at first. It's a flash, a moment where the tendency to become stops.
The tendency to become, meaning the engine of the self shuts off.
Think of it like a computer reboot. For a split second, the operating system stops. The you program crashes. And in that silence, you see reality exactly as it is, without any filters, without any you getting in the way. It's a glimpse of the absolute.
And the text implies that this split-second flash, even if it only lasts a microsecond, changes everything.
It changes your perspective of being forever. Once you have seen the unconditioned reality, even for a fraction of a second, you can never fully go back to the delusion. You know the truth now.
You know that you are a construct.
You know the labels are fake, and the ultimate goal is to refine this experience until one learns to dwell in unconditioned reality.
To live on the island permanently, to make the glitch permanent.
Exactly. To be in the world, but not of it.
Okay, that sounds beautiful. Detached tranquility, islands, nirvana. It sounds very clean, very zen. I want to go there.
All right.
Section 7 of our outline throws us right into the mud.
It does, because
Yeah.
you don't get to the island by dreaming about it. You get there by wading through the swamp.
This is the concept of the dross and Nigredo. And honestly, this is the part where the text stopped being a fun philosophy book and started feeling like a warning label on a bottle of poison.
It is a warning. This is where the alchemist metaphor really shines. In physical alchemy, you have the dross, the waste material, the impurities that float to the top of the molten metal when you heat it up. You have to skim them off to get the gold.
But in this text, the dross isn't just waste. It's us.
It is. The text says the dross is the very substance of the alchemist's being. It is a lifetime of meaning, plus many lifetimes of cultural programming.
Lifetimes of cultural programming. That's a heavy phrase. It means everything I think I am, my name, my history, my likes and dislikes, my political views, my trauma, my ambitions. All of that is dross.
All of it is the filter that blocks reality. It's the impurities in the metal. And to get the gold, the pure observer, you have to burn the dross off.
And the process of burning this dross is called Nigredo, which literally translates to the blackening or darkness.
The blackening. It sounds like a horror movie title.
And for the ego, it is a horror movie. The text says the aspiring alchemist must develop a passion to seek out their own inner darkness and transmute it.
Seek out their own darkness. Think about that. Most of us spend our entire lives running away from our darkness.
We distract ourselves. We watch Netflix. We drink wine. We work 80 hours a week. We scroll social media until our eyes bleed.
We do anything to avoid sitting in a quiet room with our own dark thoughts.
Which is why most people never become alchemists. The alchemist runs toward the darkness. But the text is very honest about how this feels. It says this phase is neither pleasant nor easy.
That is an understatement. It says this phase often manifests as depressive or psychotic illness.
Yes, it involves despair, hopelessness, and helplessness.
It is a total collapse of meaning. If you burn away the labels, if you realize your job is meaningless, your status is meaningless, yourself is a construct.
What is left? The void.
The void. And that is terrifying. The text warns that few realize they are on a spiritual path during this stage. They just feel severely unwell.
This is the part that really scared me, because it sounds like we are describing a major depressive episode or a nervous breakdown.
We are. The symptoms are identical.
So this raises a massive, dangerous question, and I want to be careful here. if I'm feeling despair and hopelessness, if I'm staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wishing I didn't exist, how do I know if I need a therapist and medication or if I'm an alchemist in the Nigredo phase? Or both?
That is the crucial question, and I want to be clear. If you are suffering, seek help. This text isn't medical advice.
Right.
But specifically within the framework of this philosophy, the source gives us a very specific litmus test. One word: curiosity.
Curiosity. How can you be curious when you're in despair?
That is the defining trait of the alchemist. The text says the only real difference between an alchemist and another suffering with mental illness is a curiosity towards their symptoms.
Wow. Okay, let's dig into that. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, imagine two people feeling deep, crushing despair. Person A, let's call him the victim, is drowning in it. He is saying, "This is terrible. I want it to stop. Why is this happening to me? I am a failure. I am broken." He is fully identified with the pain. He is the object being crushed.
Right. He is the car driver screaming at the world.
Exactly. Now, person B, the alchemist, is feeling the exact same despair. The chemical reality is the same. The heaviness in the chest is the same. But there is a tiny part of their brain, the observer on the island, that is watching the despair and saying, this is interesting.
Interesting. That seems impossible.
They ask questions. What is this feeling made of? Where is it coming from? Is it my ego dying? What is it trying to burn away? Is this the dross rising to the surface?
The suspicious observer again.
Exactly. The alchemist has a deep, unspoken suspicion towards experience. Even when they are in the darkest hole, they are taking notes. They are checking the temperature of the retort.
That is actually really helpful because it gives you something to do with the pain. You don't just have to suffer it. You can study it.
You can put it in the retort. You can analyze it. I am feeling despair. Okay, break it down. My chest is heavy. My thoughts are dark. Synthesis. This is the dross burning off. This is the Nigredo. I am in the lab.
It reframes the suffering from pointless pain to necessary work. It turns the breakdown into a breakthrough.
And that shift in perspective makes all the difference. It's what allows the alchemist to survive the process without being destroyed by it. The victim wants to be numb. The alchemist wants to understand.
This has been a heavy deep dive, probably one of the heaviest we've done. We've gone from the not your first rodeo hook through the nature of subjective existence, the trap of objectification, the difficulty of the white rabbit in the prison of language, the goal of detached tranquility, and finally, into the fire of Nigredo.
It's a complete arc. It describes a journey that starts with disenchantment, being bummed out by the world, moves backward through the dross of adulthood to find that stable island of childhood perception. Also, we can analyze reality without falling apart.
The text mentions that this is just the setup. It says this source sets the stage for a map of the evolution of human consciousness, which is teased as the next lesson.
Right. This was just the introduction to the mindset, the orientation day for the alchemist school. The actual work, the mapping of consciousness is ongoing.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought, a challenge, really, based on this material.
The challenge of the suspicious observer.
Exactly. The next time you feel a strong emotion, whether it's anxiety about a meeting, anger at a driver in traffic, or that deep 3 a.m. existential dread, try to activate that alchemist part of your brain.
Don't just try to make the feeling go away. Don't just reach for the phone or the drink to numb it. Stop. Look at it. Ask yourself, am I just hurting right now? Or am I in the lab?
Can you look at your own darkness and see it as dross waiting to be refined? It's a hard shift to make. It might be the hardest thing you ever do. But according to this text, it's the only way to turn the late of your life into gold.
And remember, if you're even trying to do that, if you made it to the end of this hour, it's not your first rodeo.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next one.
Take care.